I'll split my coffee the moment my wife told the waiter we weren't together. Not because I was shocked, because I was relieved. That single sentence, delivered with a smile sharp enough to cut glass, gave me permission to do what I'd been planning for 3 weeks. I stood up, pulled out my wallet, counted exact bills for my half of the meal, left them on the table, and walked out. No argument, no scene, just the sound of my chair scraping tile and the door closing behind me. She's probably still sitting there, waiting for me to come crawling back with apologies and explanations. I hope the waiter brought her the check. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Let me rewind to where this really started. 3 months before that restaurant, my wife Natalie and I were sitting in our living room when she casually mentioned that her friend Monica thought I was boring. Not in a mean way, she said, just factually boring, like describing the weather. She laughed when she said it, scrolling through her phone, not even looking at me. I was reading a book about urban planning, which, I'll admit, isn't exactly thrilling dinner conversation, but I'd spent the day managing a construction site in the heat, and my idea of relaxation didn't involve performing for an audience. I asked her why she was telling me this. She shrugged. Just thought you should know. Monica's really perceptive about people. I set my book down and looked at her for a long time. She didn't notice. Her thumbs were busy typing something to someone who wasn't me. I made a mental note, not a dramatic one, just a small mark in the ledger I was starting to keep. The marks added up slowly. A week later, we were at a barbecue at her cousin's place. I was manning the grill because nobody else wanted to, which was fine. I like grilling. It's methodical. Natalie walked by with a group of her friends and said loud enough for everyone to hear that I was basically a human thermostat, reliable but not exciting. Her friends laughed. One of them, a woman named Trish who worked in marketing and talked like every sentence was a pitch, said, "That's so sad," in a tone that wasn't sad at all. It was delighted. Natalie linked arms with her and they walked away giggling. I flipped a burger. It sizzled. I didn't. That was the second mark. By the 3rd month, I'd stopped counting marks and started making plans. The final straw wasn't even dramatic. We were walking through a department store and she was looking at throw pillows. I suggested a blue one that matched our couch. She rolled her eyes and told the saleswoman that her husband had the aesthetic sense of a filing cabinet. The saleswoman laughed politely. Natalie bought a purple pillow that clashed with everything. When we got to the car, I told her I didn't appreciate being insulted in public. She said I was being sensitive, that it was just a joke, that I needed to lighten up. I nodded and drove home in silence. She turned up the radio. I turned down my investment in the marriage. I started small. I stopped volunteering information about my day. When she asked how work was, I said, fine. When she asked what I wanted for dinner, I said, whatever you want. When she asked if I wanted to go to another one of her friends' parties, I said, sure. I became exactly what she described, a thermostat, present but not participating. She didn't notice the shift, or if she did, she didn't care. She was too busy curating her life for an audience I wasn't part of. Her social media was full of carefully staged photos of our home, her outfits, her brunches. I appeared in the background sometimes, blurry and irrelevant, a prop in someone else's production. I also started documenting, not in a creepy way, just practical. I kept a notes file on my phone, dates, comments, contexts. I wasn't building a case for anything specific yet. I was just tired of gaslighting myself into thinking I was overreacting. When you're told you're too sensitive often enough, you start to believe it. The notes were proof that I wasn't imagining the pattern, proof that respect had left the building, and I was the only one who noticed it was gone. Then came the restaurant. Natalie had been pushing for us to go to this new Italian place downtown. She'd seen it on someone's feed and decided we needed to be seen there. I agreed because I'd stopped fighting about small things. We got dressed. She wore something elegant and spent 40 minutes on her makeup. I wore a button-down and khakis. She looked at me and sighed, but didn't say anything. We drove separate cars because she was meeting Monica afterward for drinks. That should have been my first clue that the evening was orchestrated. The restaurant was loud and dim with exposed brick and Edison bulbs, very trendy, very photographable. Natalie took 3 pictures of the menu before we ordered. When the waiter came, a young guy with a man bun and an apron, Natalie smiled at him in that way she smiles when she wants something. She ordered a pasta dish with a name I couldn't pronounce. I ordered lasagna. Simple. The waiter nodded and started to walk away. Natalie stopped him. She leaned in slightly and said in a voice that carried to the nearby tables, "We are not together, by the way. Separate checks." The waiter looked confused. He glanced at me. I looked at Natalie. She was already scrolling her phone. The waiter said, okay, and walked away. The couple at the next table looked at us and then quickly looked away. I sat there for a moment processing what had just happened. Not together, in a restaurant, on what was supposed to be a date. I leaned back in my chair and felt something click into place in my chest. Not anger, clarity. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. I'd already moved most of my money into a separate account 2 weeks earlier. Joint account had enough for bills. My personal account had everything else. I'd been preparing without knowing exactly what I was preparing for. Now I knew. The food came, we ate in silence. She posted a picture of her pasta with a caption about treating herself. I ate my lasagna and thought about logistics. When the waiter brought the check, he set it in the middle of the table awkwardly. Natalie didn't reach for it. She was texting. I picked it up, calculated my half down to the cent including tax and tip, and placed cash on the table. Then I stood up. Natalie looked up. "Where are you going?" "Home," I said. "But we're not done. You said we're not together." I walked out. I heard her call my name once. I didn't turn around. I got in my car and drove home with the windows down and the radio off. The silence was incredible. When I got home, I made coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and called my friend Vincent. Vincent is a lawyer. Not a divorce lawyer, but he knows people. I told him I needed a referral. He didn't ask questions. He just said, "I'll text you a name." 20 minutes later, I had an appointment scheduled for the following Monday. Natalie came home 2 hours later. She slammed the door. I was in the bedroom reading. She stood in the doorway with her arms crossed. "What was that?" "That was me paying for my half and leaving," I said. "You embarrassed me. You told a stranger we weren't together?" I agreed. Her face did something between confusion and anger. It was a joke. "Was it?" I asked. She huffed and went to take a shower. I heard the water running for a long time. When she came out, she tried a different approach. Softer voice, sat on the edge of the bed. "I'm sorry. I didn't think you'd take it that way." I closed my book. How should I take it? She touched my arm. "You know I love you." I didn't. She pulled her hand back. "You're being dramatic." "Maybe, but I'm also being clear. If we're not together, then we're not together. I'm fine with that. Let's make it official." Her eyes went wide. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I have a meeting Monday. You'll get paperwork soon. Figure out what you want to keep." She stared at me like I'd spoken a language she didn't understand. Then she laughed. "This is because of a joke? This is because of a pattern." She stood up. "You're insane. I'm tired. There's a difference." She slept on the couch that night. I slept better than I had in months. The next morning, she was gone before I woke up. No note, no text. I made breakfast, went to the gym, and spent the afternoon organizing my office. I pulled out files, bank statements, titles, deeds. I hadn't realized how much paperwork a life generates until I started sorting mine from ours. Most of it was mine. The house was in my name. I'd bought it before we got married. The cars were titled separately. We didn't have kids, no pets. The separation was going to be cleaner than most, almost like the universe knew this was temporary. Monday came. I met with the lawyer, a woman named Shamuel Tan. She was sharp and efficient. She listened to my story without interrupting, took notes, and then laid out my options. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now, back to the story. "In this state," she said, "you can file no fault. No drama, just irreconcilable differences. It'll take a few months, but it's straightforward. Do you own property together? Just the house, and it's mine. Any shared debt? No. "This is going to be one of the easier cases I've handled," she said. I felt relieved and sad at the same time. Easy divorce meant easy marriage. Nothing worth fighting for. We filed that afternoon. I didn't tell Natalie right away. I wanted the papers to arrive as a fact, not a threat. I went home, cooked dinner, watched a documentary about infrastructure, and went to bed early. Natalie came home late, smelling like wine and perfume. She didn't speak to me. I didn't speak to her. We were roommates now, polite strangers sharing space. The papers arrived on a Thursday. I was at work when she called. 15 missed calls. I didn't answer. She texted, "What is this? What did you do? You can't be serious." I replied with one message, "I'm serious. Contact Shmuel Tan if you have questions." I included the office number. Then I muted her contact. My coworker Derek noticed I was smiling. "Good news?" "I got something off my to-do list," I said. He nodded and went back to his spreadsheet. That night, Natalie was waiting when I got home. She was sitting on the couch with the papers spread out on the coffee table like evidence at a crime scene. She looked up when I walked in. Her eyes were red, but I couldn't tell if it was from crying or anger. "Explain this." "There's nothing to explain," I said. "You told a waiter we weren't together. I'm agreeing with you." "That was a joke. It was a boundary." She stood up. "So you're just going to throw away our marriage over one comment?" "One comment was the last one. There were hundreds before it." I walked past her into the kitchen. She followed. "You can't just decide this alone." "Actually, I can. That's how it works." She grabbed my arm. I stopped and looked at her hand until she let go. "Talk to me," she said. "We are talking. You're not listening." I opened the fridge and pulled out leftovers. She watched me heat up food like I was performing surgery. This is insane. This is clarity. You don't even care, do you? I care about not being someone's punchline. She leaned against the counter. "I never meant to hurt you. Intent and impact are different things. You meant to get laughs. You got them. I got tired." The microwave beeped. I took my food to the table. She sat across from me. "What if I change?" "You won't. People don't change. They just get better at hiding." She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "Do you even love me anymore?" I looked at her. Really looked. She was beautiful, successful, charming. And none of that mattered because she didn't respect me. "I don't know," I said. "But I know I like myself more when you're not around. That's probably my answer." She left the room. I heard her on the phone in the bedroom, loud whispers. Probably calling Monica. Probably painting me as the villain. I didn't care. I finished eating, washed my dish, and went for a walk. The neighborhood was quiet. Dogs barked, sprinklers hissed. Someone was grilling. It smelled like normal life. I wanted that, not the performance. Just the regular, boring existence where nobody kept score. When I got back, her car was gone. I checked the bedroom. Half her closet was empty. Drawers open, bathroom counter clear. She'd taken essentials. Good, faster this way. I changed the locks the next day. Not out of spite, out of clarity. This was my house. I texted her the new code for the garage so she could get her remaining things when I wasn't home. She didn't reply. A week later, everything of hers was gone, except a few kitchen items I didn't care about. I donated them. The divorce moved quickly. Shmuel Tan was right. No kids, no shared assets, no drama in the legal sense. Natalie tried to ask for spousal support. Shmuel Tan laughed when she read the request. On what grounds? They made similar incomes, been married less than 3 years. The judge won't even consider it. Natalie dropped it. 3 months after I walked out of that restaurant, I was officially single. I didn't celebrate, I didn't mourn. I just existed in a way that felt honest. I started saying no to things I didn't want to do. I stopped pretending to enjoy loud bars and performative brunches. I read more. I took a woodworking class. I learned to make furniture because I liked the idea of building something that didn't talk back. My friend Vincent invited me to a poker night. Low stakes, good people. I went. I laughed. Nobody insulted me. It was novel. Derek at work asked if I was seeing anyone. Not interested, I said. I'm seeing myself clearly for the first time in years. That's enough. He nodded. Fair. I ran into Monica at a coffee shop 6 months later. She pretended not to see me. I didn't pretend. I walked right up. "Hi, Monica." She looked trapped. "Hi, how are you?" "Great. You?" She mumbled something about being busy. I smiled. "Tell Natalie I said thanks." "For what?" "For showing me what I didn't want." Monica's face did something complicated. She walked out without ordering. I got my coffee and sat by the window. The sun was out. I had nowhere to be. I sipped slowly. A year after the divorce, I sold the house. Too many memories, mostly bad ones. I bought a smaller place near the river. 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, a deck. I furnished it with things I actually liked. No compromises. No decorative pillows that clashed. I hung artwork I picked out myself. I played music too loud. I cooked meals for one and didn't apologize for it. People ask if I'm lonely. Sometimes. But loneliness is different from being disrespected in company. I'll take lonely. At least it's honest. I started dating eventually. Casual, no rush. I met a woman named Iris at the woodworking class. She made a bookshelf. I made a coffee table. We talked about joinery techniques and finished our projects and exchanged numbers. We got dinner. She didn't pictures of her food. She didn't insult me to make her friends laugh. She asked questions and listened to answers. It was shockingly simple. We've been seeing each other for 4 months now. I haven't introduced her to anyone yet. Not because I'm hiding her, because I'm protecting something that feels good before other people get their opinions involved. Last week, I saw Natalie's car at a shopping center. I didn't feel anything. No anger, no regret. Just a vague recognition, like seeing a building you used to work in. I drove past. I had groceries to buy. A life to live. She wasn't part of it anymore. Looking back, the restaurant wasn't the beginning. It was the punctuation mark on a sentence I'd been writing for months. We're not together. She was right. We hadn't been for a long time. I just had the clarity to make it official. Some people stay in marriages because they're afraid of being alone. I stayed because I didn't realize leaving was an option. Once I realized it, the choice was easy. So yeah, my wife told the waiter we weren't together. I paid my half and left. She might still be waiting for me to come back and make it right, but there's nothing to fix. She wanted separate, she got it, and I got my life back. If there's a lesson here, it's this. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. When someone tells you what they think of you, listen. And when someone treats you like a punchline, stop showing up for the joke. You don't owe anyone a performance. You don't owe anyone access to your peace. The door is always there. Sometimes walking through it is the kindest thing you can do for yourself. I'm good now. Better than good. I'm building furniture. I'm seeing someone who doesn't need an audience. I'm sleeping through the night. The coffee tastes better. The mornings are quieter. And when I look in the mirror, I recognize the guy looking back. That's worth more than any marriage that required me to disappear. The weeks after I walked out of that restaurant felt like living in a house where someone had finally turned off a noise you didn't realize was constant until it stopped. Natalie moved out within 10 days. She took her clothes, her books, her collection of ceramic vases she'd never put flowers in, and about half the kitchen gadgets we'd accumulated. She left behind a garlic press, a broken blender, and a note on the counter that said, "You'll regret this." I threw the note away and kept the garlic press. At least it was useful. Work became my anchor. I'm a project manager for a mid-sized commercial construction firm. We build office complexes, medical centers, the occasional school. It's not glamorous, but it's solid. Numbers make sense. Timelines have logic. If you plan well and execute correctly, things get built. There's a satisfying finality to it. Natalie used to say my job was boring. She worked in event planning, which meant her job was chaos dressed up as fun. She thrived on last-minute changes and dramatic clients and the adrenaline of pulling off something that looked effortless but required panic behind the scenes. I thrived on schedules and spreadsheets and problems that had solutions. We were incompatible in ways I'd ignored because I thought love was supposed to be hard work. Turns out, love shouldn't feel like construction without a blueprint. My boss Richard noticed I was staying later. He's a gruff guy in his 60s who's been building things since before I was born. He walked into my office one evening while I was reviewing supply orders and said, "You sleep in here now?" "Just catching up," I told him. He leaned against the doorframe. "Heard you got divorced. News travels. Small industry." I nodded. He scratched his beard. "My first wife left me for a dentist. I was mad for a year. Then I realized you did me a favor. Built my best projects after that." He tapped the door twice and left. I appreciated that he didn't try to fix it, just acknowledged it and moved on. Vincent called me a few weeks later and said he was organizing a fishing trip. 3 days, middle of nowhere, no cell service. "You in?" I hadn't been fishing since I was a kid. My dad used to take me to a lake upstate. We'd sit in silence for hours. It was the best kind of quiet. "Yeah, I'm in." We left on a Friday. Vincent brought his brother-in-law Carl, who was recently retired, and talked non-stop about his boat. The third guy was someone named Greg, who worked in finance and didn't talk much at all. Perfect group. We drove 4 hours north to a cabin Vincent's family owned. It was small and smelled like pine and old coffee. We unpacked, cracked beers, and spent the evening not talking about our lives. We talked about fishing, about whether the Lakers had a chance this year. It was profoundly boring, and I loved every second. Saturday morning, we were on the water by 6. The lake was glass. Fog sat on the surface like it was trying to decide whether to lift or stay. I cast my line and felt my brain go quiet. Carl caught the first fish, a decent bass. He held it up for a photo nobody took because nobody had their phones. We just looked and said, "Nice," and kept fishing. By noon, we'd caught enough for dinner. We grilled them that night with potatoes and corn. Vincent's brother-in-law told a long story about getting lost in a hardware store. It wasn't funny, but we laughed anyway because the beer was cold and nobody was performing. On the drive back Sunday, Vincent asked how I was really doing. "Good," I said. He glanced over. "You're not just saying that?" "No. I feel like I got off a ride I didn't realize was making me sick." He nodded. "Natalie reached out to my wife, wanted to know if I was seeing someone." Vincent's wife Angela had been friends with Natalie through me. I wasn't surprised. "What did Angela say?" "That it wasn't her business." Vincent smiled. "Angela doesn't do drama. That's why I married her." I looked out the window at trees blurring past. "Tell Angela thanks." "Will do." I started running, not because I needed to lose weight or train for anything, just because moving felt better than sitting still. I'd wake up at 5:30, put on shoes, and run the route along the canal near my house. 3 miles, then 5. I didn't listen to music. I listened to my breathing and my footsteps, and sometimes birds if they were awake. Other runners would nod as we passed, a silent acknowledgement. We're all out here trying to outrun something. After a month, I noticed I was sleeping better. My resting heart rate dropped. I stopped clenching my jaw during the day. One morning, I ran past a woman walking a huge German Shepherd. The dog was well-trained, didn't pull on the leash. She smiled and said, "Morning." I said morning back. The next week, I saw her again. Same spot, same dog, same smile. The third week, she stopped and said, "I see you out here a lot. Consistent schedule." I laughed. Creature of habit. She adjusted the leash. "I'm Iris. The dog's name is Bennett. I'm Shumuel. Nice to meet you both." Bennett sniffed my shoe and decided I was acceptable. We talked for maybe 5 minutes. She was a high school science teacher. Summer break meant she had time to walk Bennett at a reasonable hour instead of in the dark. I told her I worked in construction. She said that must be satisfying, building things that last. "It is," I said. We said goodbye and kept going our separate directions. I didn't think much about it until the following week when she wasn't there. I noticed her absence, which meant I'd been expecting her presence. The week after that, she was back. Bennett bounded up like we were old friends. "Sorry we missed last week," Iris said. "Family thing." "No apology needed," I said, but I realized I was glad to see her. We started timing our routes to overlap. Not on purpose at first, then definitely on purpose. We'd walk and talk after my run. She told me about her students, the kid who brought a frog to class and accidentally let it loose during a test, the girl who wanted to be an astronaut and asked questions Iris had to research to answer. I told her about job sites, the electrician who sang opera while working, the architect who designed a building with windows that didn't account for the afternoon sun, and now half the offices were unbearable in summer. A month into our accidental morning meetups, Iris asked if I wanted to grab coffee sometime. Actual coffee, not standing in workout clothes at dawn. I said yes before I had time to overthink it. We met that Saturday at a place downtown. She showed up in jeans and a sweater with her hair down. I'd only ever seen it in a ponytail. She looked different. Good different. We ordered coffee and sat outside. The conversation was easy. She asked about my divorce without being nosy. I gave her the summary. We wanted different things. She nodded. I get that. I was engaged once. He wanted me to quit teaching and work for his family's business. I loved teaching. He loved control. So I gave back the ring. Smart, I said. She smiled. Took me a while to see it that way. But yeah, smart. We talked for 3 hours. About nothing important. About everything important. Books we'd read, places we wanted to visit. The fact that both of us thought cilantro tasted like soap. When we finally stood to leave, she said, I had a really good time. Me too. We should do this again. She agreed. We did it again the following weekend. And the weekend after that. I didn't tell anyone I was seeing someone. Not because I was hiding it, because it felt private and good, and I didn't want outside opinions contaminating it yet. 2 months in, Iris invited me to her place for dinner. She lived in a small duplex with a backyard big enough for Bennett to patrol. The inside was cozy, bookshelves everywhere, plants that were actually alive, art on the walls that looked like she'd picked it from local artists, not chain stores. She cooked pasta from scratch. I watched her work and realized I was relaxed in a way I hadn't been in years. We ate on her back patio. Bennett lay at our feet like a furry chaperone. She told me about her family, 3 brothers, all younger. She was the responsible one growing up, which was probably why she became a teacher. I told her about my dad passing when I was in college, how my mom remarried a decent guy and moved to Arizona, how I didn't have siblings and sometimes wondered what that would have been like. After dinner, we sat on her couch and she put on a documentary about deep-sea creatures. Halfway through, she fell asleep with her head on my shoulder. I didn't move. I watched bioluminescent jellyfish drift across the screen and felt something I hadn't felt with Natalie, even at the beginning. Peace. When the documentary ended, I gently woke her. She blinked and looked embarrassed. Sorry, I'm a terrible host. You're a great host, I said. I should probably go. She walked me to the door. Thanks for coming over. Thanks for having me. She kissed me. It was soft and brief and perfect. Drive safe. I will. I drove home with the windows down and didn't turn on the radio. I thought about how different this felt. Natalie and I had fireworks at the start, passion and intensity and late nights that felt electric. But fireworks burn out. This thing with Iris felt like a slow build, steady, no performance, just 2 people who liked each other's company and didn't need an audience to validate it. Work got busy. We broke ground on a new medical complex, 12-month project, big budget, lots of moving parts. I was on site most days, coordinating with subcontractors and inspectors and architects who kept changing their minds. It was stressful in a good way. Problems had solutions. I'd get home exhausted and satisfied. Iris would text me pictures of Bennett doing something goofy or a meme about teaching. Small things. I started looking forward to those texts more than I wanted to admit. 3 months into dating, I met her friends. She invited me to a game night at someone's house. I almost said no. Game nights with Natalie's friends had been performances. Everyone trying to be the funniest or the smartest or the most interesting. But I trusted Iris, so I went. Her friends were normal. A married couple who taught at the same school, a guy who worked in IT and collected vinyl records, a woman who managed a bookstore and made terrible puns. We played a trivia game. I was decent at history and science, terrible at pop culture. Nobody cared. When we left, Iris squeezed my hand. That wasn't so bad, right? It was actually fun. She smiled. They liked you. I liked them. I finally told Vincent I was seeing someone. We were having lunch at a taco place near the office. He raised his eyebrows. Yeah? What's her name? Iris. She's a teacher. He nodded. Good for you, man. You seem different. How so? Less like you're waiting for something bad to happen. I thought about that. You're right. With Natalie, I was always braced for the next comment or the next test. This feels different. Vincent bit into his taco. Different good? Different great. Natalie started appearing in my peripheral life again around the 6-month mark. I heard through mutual acquaintances that she was dating someone, a guy who worked in tech, very successful, very visible on social media. I didn't look him up, didn't care. But then she started commenting on old photos we were both tagged in. Little comments, memories, inside jokes. It felt like breadcrumbs, like she was testing if I was paying attention. I wasn't. I untagged myself from anything that included her and adjusted my privacy settings. Iris noticed I was distracted one evening. We were at my place watching a movie. Everything okay? My ex is doing that thing where she reminds me she exists. Iris muted the TV. Does it bother you? Not the way she wants it to. It's just noise. Iris nodded. If you need to talk about it, I'm here. But also, if you don't, that's fine too. I appreciated that. Natalie would have demanded I process it immediately and publicly. Iris just gave me space. A few weeks later, I ran into Natalie at a grocery store. Literally. I was turning a corner with a cart and she was coming from the other direction. We both stopped. Hi, she said. Hi. Awkward silence. You look good. Thanks, you too. Another silence. How have you been? Good, busy. You? She launched into a monologue about her new job and her new apartment and her new boyfriend who apparently was taking her to Spain. She didn't ask about my life. She just wanted me to know hers was great. When she finally paused, I said, I'm happy for you, Natalie. I need to grab milk. Her face flickered. That's it? That's it. I moved past her. She called after me. I heard you're seeing someone. I stopped, but didn't turn around. I am. She's great. I kept walking. My hands were shaking slightly when I loaded groceries into my car, but I felt good. I'd said what was true and nothing more. That night, I told Iris about it. She was grading papers at her kitchen table. I sat across from her. Ran into my ex today. She looked up. How'd that go? Fine. She wanted me to know she's moved on and winning at life. Iris put down her pen. And you? I'm not competing. I'm just living. She smiled. Good answer. We ordered pizza and watched her grade papers, which sounds boring but wasn't. She explained why one kid's answer about photosynthesis was technically correct but missed the point. I asked questions. She answered. It felt like the kind of evening married people have after 20 years. Comfortable, easy. I liked it more than any dramatic date I'd ever been on. By the time we'd been dating 8 months, I knew I wanted to keep doing this. Not in a panic way, not in a we should get married because that's what people do way, just in a this person makes my life better and I want her in it way. I didn't have a plan, I just knew. We were hiking one Saturday. Bennett was bounding ahead on the trail. The leaves were changing colors. Iris stopped to take a picture of the view. I watched her. She turned and caught me staring. What? Nothing, just thinking how lucky I am. She walked over. I'm the lucky one. We kissed on a trail in the middle of nowhere, with a dog as our only witness. It was perfect. Around the same time, Richard called me into his office. He had a proposition. We were bidding on a huge project, convention center, multi-year build. If we got it, he wanted me to lead. It would mean more responsibility, more money, longer hours for a while. You interested? Absolutely. He leaned back in his chair. You've changed since your divorce. More focused. I don't know if I should thank your ex-wife or feel bad for you. Both, maybe. He laughed. Fair. I'll let you know when we hear about the bid. We got it 3 weeks later. I called Iris first. She screamed, I'm so proud of you. Dinner's on me tonight. We celebrated at a nice restaurant. Not fancy, just nice. She toasted with wine, to building things that last. I clinked her glass, to people who get it. The project consumed my life for the next few months, but in a good way. I was solving problems and managing teams and seeing something massive take shape from nothing. Iris understood. She had her own busy season with midterms and parent-teacher conferences. We'd text throughout the day, send pictures, make plans for the weekend when we both had time to breathe. It worked because neither of us needed constant attention. We trusted the foundation. I started going to her classroom sometimes after work. She'd be cleaning up lab equipment or decorating a bulletin board. I'd help. We'd talk about our days. One evening, she told me about a student who was struggling. Smart kid, but home life was rough. She was trying to figure out how to help without overstepping. I listened, offered thoughts. Mostly I was just there. When we locked up and walked to our cars, she said, "Thank you." For what? For caring about this stuff. For not making me feel like my job is less important than yours. Your job is more important than mine. You're shaping minds. I'm pouring concrete. She kissed me. You're both building things that last. A year after I walked out of that restaurant, Shamul Tan called me. The divorce was officially final, all paperwork processed. She congratulated me and said if I ever needed anything else, don't hesitate to reach out. I thanked her and hung up. I sat in my truck outside the job site and felt nothing dramatic. No relief, no sadness, just a quiet closing of a chapter. I texted Iris, "It's official." She replied immediately, "How do you feel?" "Free." She sent a heart emoji. "Come over tonight. I'm making your favorite." I smiled and started the truck. That evening, we sat on her couch with Bennett between us. She'd made lasagna because she remembered it was what I'd ordered the night everything changed. We ate and watched a cooking show and didn't talk about the divorce. We talked about her brother's upcoming wedding, about a trip we wanted to take to the mountains, about whether we should adopt a second dog so Bennett had a sibling. Normal things, future things. Later, when I was getting ready to leave, she walked me to the door. "Stay," she said. I looked at her. "You sure?" "I'm sure." I stayed. We fell asleep with Bennett taking up most of the bed, and it was the best sleep I'd had in years. Things with Iris progressed naturally. We didn't force milestones or compare ourselves to anyone else's timeline. 6 months later, I asked if she wanted to move in together. Her lease was up, my house had space. It made sense logically. But more than that, it felt right. She said yes without hesitation. We spent weekends moving her stuff. Her books filled my empty shelves. Her plants made the living room feel alive. Bennett claimed the couch. I didn't mind. We painted the spare bedroom and turned it into her office for grading and lesson planning. She hung art. I built her a desk. We cooked dinners together and argued about whether pineapple belonged on pizza. She said yes. I said no. We ordered half and half. Work on the convention center hit a major milestone. We finished the structural phase ahead of schedule and under budget. Richard took the team out for drinks. He pulled me aside. "You're doing excellent work. Keep it up, and there's a partnership conversation in your future." I shook his hand. "I appreciate that." He looked at me. "You're happy. Not a question, a statement." "I am." "Good. Happy people build better buildings." He walked away. I believed him. Natalie got engaged. I saw it on social media because a mutual friend shared the post. She was wearing a massive ring and standing on a beach at sunset with her tech boyfriend. The caption was something about finding your person and new beginnings. I showed Iris. She glanced at it. "How do you feel?" "I feel nothing." She handed the phone back. "Good. That's exactly how you should feel." We went back to watching our show. My mom called a few weeks later. She'd heard about Natalie's engagement through some family network I didn't understand. She wanted to make sure I was okay. "I'm great, Mom. I'm seeing someone. Her name's Iris. She's wonderful." My mom was quiet for a second. "You sound different. Happy different." "I am. Tell me about her." I talked for 20 minutes. My mom listened. At the end, she said, "I can't wait to meet her. Bring her to Arizona for Thanksgiving." I asked Iris that night. She didn't hesitate. "I'd love to meet your mom." Thanksgiving in Arizona was easy. My mom and her husband Bill had a house near Scottsdale. Warm weather, quiet neighborhood. They treated Iris like family immediately. My mom showed her embarrassing photos of me as a kid. Bill taught her his secret for perfect turkey. We hiked in the desert, played board games. Iris fit seamlessly. On the flight home, she leaned her head on my shoulder. "I love your family." "They loved you." She was quiet for a minute. "This feels real." "It is real." She squeezed my hand. "Good." The convention center opened 18 months after we broke ground, ahead of schedule, under budget. No major incidents. Richard gave a speech at the ribbon cutting and thanked the team. Specifically, thanked me. Iris was there in the crowd. She'd taken the day off to come. When I found her after the ceremony, she hugged me. "I'm so proud of you." I kissed her forehead. "Couldn't have done it without knowing I had you to come home to." She smiled. "You're getting sappy." "I blame you." That night, we went to dinner at the Italian place where it all started. Not the same restaurant where Natalie had humiliated me. I'd never go back there. But a different Italian place. Better food, better company. We ordered pasta and wine. We talked about the future, about her summer plans, about my next project, about maybe looking at houses together. Something with a yard big enough for Bennett and the second dog we kept talking about getting. It felt easy, natural, like we were building something together, brick by brick. No explosions, no drama, just steady progress. I thought about the version of me that had sat in a different restaurant a year and a half ago and heard his wife, "We're not together." That version had been lost, trying to make something work that was broken from the start, trying to be enough for someone who'd already decided he wasn't. Walking out that night had felt like failure, but it wasn't. It was the first smart decision I'd made in years. It cleared the path for this, for Iris, for a life that didn't require performance or defense, for mornings with coffee and a dog and someone who thought building things that last was worth celebrating. When the check came, Iris reached for it. "I've got this one." I smiled. "We're together." She grinned. "Yes, we are." We split it anyway, because that's how we did things. Fair, equal, easy. We walked out holding hands. The night was cool. The street was quiet. I didn't think about Natalie. I didn't think about the past. I thought about tomorrow and the day after and all the days we were building together. One decision at a time, one moment at a time, one shared meal at a time. And it was enough, more than enough. It was everything. 2 years after I walked out of that restaurant, Iris and I bought a house together. Not my old place with all its ghosts, not her duplex that was too small for the life we were building. A new place, 3 bedrooms, actual yard, quiet street with old trees. We closed on a Thursday and spent the weekend painting walls colors we both agreed on. No arguments, no passive-aggressive comments about aesthetic choices, just 2 people making a space that felt like both of us. Bennett supervised from various sunny spots on the floor. We'd adopted the second dog by then, a rescue mutt named Pepper who was part terrier and part chaos. They got along perfectly. The convention center project led to another one, then another. Richard made good on his word about the partnership conversation. It happened over lunch at a steakhouse downtown. He slid a folder across the table. "Partnership agreement. You've earned it." I read through it carefully. The terms were fair, generous even. I looked up. "This is a big step. You've been taking big steps since you got your life sorted out. Sign it or don't, but I'm not offering twice." I signed. We shook hands. He ordered dessert to celebrate. When I told Iris that night, she tackled me on the couch. Pepper barked. Bennett watched with dignified approval. "I'm so incredibly proud of you," she said. "We need to celebrate properly." We went to dinner at a place with cloth napkins and a wine list I didn't understand. She ordered for both of us because she'd been studying wine on YouTube. The food was excellent. The company was better. Halfway through the meal, she reached across the table and took my hand. "I need to tell you something." My stomach dropped for half a second. "What?" "I love you. And I know we've said it before, but I mean it in the permanent way, the build-a-life way." I squeezed her hand. "I love you in the permanent way, too." She smiled. "Good, because I'm not going anywhere." Work consumed me for stretches, but Iris never made me feel guilty about it. She had her own career, her own passions. We existed independently and came together when it mattered. That balance was something I'd never had with Natalie. Natalie needed constant attention and validation. Iris just needed honesty and effort. I could do both without feeling drained. Her school asked her to lead the science department. More responsibility, more pay. She was nervous about it. We were sitting on the back porch, watching the dogs wrestle in the yard. "What if I'm not good at managing people?" "You're good at everything you commit to." She looked at me. "You have to say that. You're biased." "I am biased, but I'm also right. Take the job." She did. 3 months later, she told me it was the best decision she'd made professionally. Her teachers respected her. The students thrived. She came home energized instead of exhausted. Watching her grow into that role was one of the quiet joys of my life. We traveled when we could, nothing extravagant. Weekend trips to national parks, a week in Colorado hiking trails and drinking beer in mountain towns. She wanted to see the ocean, so we drove to the coast and stayed in a tiny cabin that smelled like salt and old wood. We walked the beach every morning, collected shells we'd never do anything with, ate seafood and watched the sunset. It was simple and perfect. No itinerary, no pressure to document everything for an audience. Just us existing in a place that wasn't home. I ran into Monica at a hardware store. I was buying supplies for a deck project. She was looking at light fixtures. We made eye contact. She looked away fast. I walked over. "Monica." She turned. "Oh, hi, how are you?" "Good. You?" She mumbled something non-committal. "I heard Natalie got married." "She did. Big wedding. Good for her." Monica shifted her weight. "Look, I know things ended badly. They ended honestly. Different thing." She nodded slowly. "For what it's worth, I think she regrets how it went down. That's between her and her conscience." I grabbed the lumber I needed and walked away. I didn't feel angry, didn't feel vindicated, just felt done. Iris's brother got married that summer. Big family affair. I met aunts and uncles and cousins whose names I forgot immediately. Everyone was loud and affectionate and overwhelming in the best way. Her youngest brother pulled me aside during the reception. "You're good for her. She's happy. That means something to us. I appreciate that." He clapped my shoulder. "Don't screw it up." "I won't." Her mom cornered me later while I was getting a drink. She was a small woman with Iris's smile. "You're the one who builds things." "That's me." She patted my arm. "Build a good life with my daughter." "I plan to." She walked away satisfied. I realized I'd just been given a blessing disguised as a directive. We talked about marriage sometimes, never in a pressured way, just in a "what do you think about that" way. Iris wasn't traditional. She didn't need a ring or a ceremony to feel committed, but she also wasn't opposed to it. "I want to marry you eventually," I told her one night. We were doing dishes after dinner. She handed me a plate to dry. "Eventually works for me. No rush?" "No rush. We have time." That conversation happened multiple times over the following months. Always casual, always honest. No games, no tests. Just two people figuring out what they wanted together. The firm landed the biggest project we'd ever attempted. Sports arena, multi-year build, massive budget. Richard put me in charge. It was terrifying and exhilarating. I assembled a team. We spent months in planning before we broke ground. Iris understood when I had to work late or travel for meetings. She'd pack me lunches with little notes, "Kick ass today," or "Don't forget to eat." Small things that reminded me I had someone in my corner. 3 years after the divorce, Natalie sent me an email. Subject line was just "Hi." I stared at it for a long time before opening. The message was short. "I've been thinking about how things ended. I want to apologize for my part in it. I wasn't kind. I wasn't fair. I hope you're doing well." That was it. No request to meet. No attempt to reopen anything. Just an apology. I showed Iris. "What do you think?" She read it. "Do you want to respond?" "I don't know." She handed my phone back. "Sleep on it." I did. The next morning I replied, "Thank you for saying that. I appreciate it. I'm doing well. I hope you are too." I sent it and closed that chapter permanently. Iris and I started talking seriously about marriage. Not eventually, actually. We were hiking with the dogs. The trail was steep and we were both breathing hard. She stopped at a clearing. "Let's get married." I laughed.
"Right now?" She smiled. "Maybe not right now, but soon. I want to marry you. No big wedding, just us and the people we love." I kissed her. "Yes, let's do it." We planned something small. Her family, my mom and Bill, Vincent and Angela, a handful of close friends. We rented a venue in the mountains. Outdoors. Simple. I asked her what kind of ring she wanted. She said, "Surprise me." So I did. Nothing huge, just something that felt like her. Elegant and understated. When I proposed officially, down on one knee in our living room with both dogs watching, she cried. Yes, absolutely yes. The wedding was perfect. 50 people, a short ceremony, vows we wrote ourselves. Iris promised to always tell me the truth even when it was hard. I promised to build a life with her that felt like home. We exchanged rings, kissed, everyone cheered. The reception was in a barn with string lights and good food. We danced. Her dad gave a speech that made everyone cry. Vincent gave a speech that made everyone laugh. My mom hugged me and said, "Your father would be proud." I believed her. Our honeymoon was 2 weeks in New Zealand. Iris had always wanted to go. We hiked mountains and explored coastlines and ate food we couldn't pronounce. We didn't check work email, didn't worry about anything back home, just existed together in a place that felt like another planet. On our last night, we sat on a beach watching the stars. She leaned against me. Best 2 weeks of my life. Mine too. She was quiet for a moment. I'm really glad you walked out of that restaurant. Me too. Changed everything. She kissed her cheek. Built something better. We came home to real life. The dogs had been staying with her brother. They lost their minds when we picked them up. Our house felt different. Not physically, just emotionally. It was ours in a way it hadn't been before. We fell back into routines. Work, dinners, walks, game nights with friends. Normal life. Beautiful normal life. The sports arena project hit its stride. We were ahead of schedule, under budget. The client was happy. Richard kept telling me I was making him look good. One afternoon, he called me into his office, sat me down. "I'm retiring." I stared at him. "When?" "End of the year. I've been doing this 40 years. Time to fish and annoy my wife full time." "What happens to the firm?" "You and the other partners buy me out. We've already discussed terms. You'll run projects, they'll handle business side. It'll work." I shook his hand. "Thank you for everything." He waved it off. "You earned every bit of it. Now finish that arena and make me proud." Iris got pregnant. We weren't trying, but we weren't preventing. She took the test on a random Tuesday morning, walked into the kitchen where I was making coffee, held up the stick. "I'm pregnant." I set down the coffee pot. "Really? Really?" We stared at each other. Then we both started laughing. Not funny laughing, overwhelmed laughing. "Holy shit," I said. "Holy shit," she agreed. We hugged for a long time. The dogs sensed something was happening and danced around our legs. That night, we told her family over video chat. Her mom cried, her brothers cheered. My mom screamed so loud Bill had to take the phone. We didn't post anything on social media, kept it private, told people in person or over the phone, the old-fashioned way. Pregnancy was hard on Iris. Morning sickness lasted all day. She was exhausted, but she never complained, just powered through. I did what I could, cooked meals that didn't make her nauseous, rubbed her feet, assembled the crib while she supervised from a chair. We painted the nursery pale yellow, gender neutral. We'd decided not to find out, wanted the surprise. Her students made her cards and drawings when she told them. She cried reading every one. The arena opened 6 months before the baby was due. Ribbon-cutting ceremony, press coverage. Richard showed up even though he was retired, shook my hand in front of everyone, told the crowd I was the future of the firm. Iris was there, 7 months pregnant and glowing. Afterward, she hugged me. "You did it. We did it." She kissed me. "Okay, yes, we did it." Our daughter was born on a Sunday in April. Labor was long. Iris was a warrior. I held her hand and felt useless and amazed. When they finally placed our daughter on Iris's chest, I cried harder than I'd ever cried. She was perfect, tiny and loud and perfect. We named her Claire. My mom flew in the next day, stayed for 2 weeks helping. Iris's family descended in shifts. The house was chaos, beautiful chaos. I took paternity leave, spent my days learning how to change diapers and function on no sleep. Iris was exhausted but happy. We'd look at each other over Claire's head in the middle of the night and just smile. Tired smiles, grateful smiles. Claire grew, rolled over, sat up, crawled, said "Dada" first, which made Iris roll her eyes, but she was smiling. Said "Mama" a week later. We took 1,000 pictures we'd never organize.
The dogs were gentle with her. Bennett let her pull his ears. Pepper licked her face until she giggled. Our house was loud and messy and full. Everything I didn't know I wanted. Work balanced out. I could manage projects and be present at home. Iris went back to teaching part-time. Her mom watched Claire 2 days a week. We figured it out. Some days were hard. Most days were good. We argued sometimes, about small things, never big things. We'd apologize and move on. No grudges, no scorekeeping. I thought about the version of myself that sat in a restaurant and heard his wife say, "We're not together." That version had felt like a failure, had felt small and boring and insufficient. But that version had made the right choice, had walked away from something broken and eventually built something real. I didn't regret the divorce, didn't regret any of it. Every choice had led here, to this house, this woman, this life. I'd paid my half that night and left. Best money I ever spent. Best decision I ever made. The walk out that door led me to walk into something better, something true, something worth building. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.